The body in flow. When we are unhappy, depressed, or bored, we have an easy remedy at hand: to use the body for all it is worth. Most people nowadays are aware of the importance of health and physical fitness, but the almost unlimited potential for enjoyment that the body offers often remains unexploited. Few learn to move with the grace of an acrobat, see the fresh eye of an artist, feel the joy of an athlete who breaks his own record, taste with the subtlety of connoisseur, or love with a skill that lifts sex into a form of art. Because these opportunities are easily within reach, the easiest step towards improving the quality of life consists in simply learning to control the body and its senses. Scientists occasionally amuse themselves by trying to figure out how much a human body might be worth. Chemists have painstakingly added up the market value of skin, flesh, bone, hair, and the various minerals and trace elements contained in it, and have come up with a paltry sum of a few dollars. Other scientists have taken into account the sophisticated information processing and learning capacity of the mind-body system and have come to a very different conclusion. They calculate that to build such a sensitive machine would require an enormous sum on the order of hundreds of millions of dollars. Neither of these methods of assessing the body makes much sense. Its worth does not derive from chemical ingredients or from the neural wiring that makes information processing possible. What gives it a preciousness beyond reckoning is the fact that without it there would be no experiences and therefore no record of life as we know it. Trying to attach a market value to the body and its processes, it's the same as attempting to put a price tag on life. By what scale can we establish its worth? Everything the body can do is potentially enjoyable, yet many people ignore this capacity and use their physical equipment as little as possible, leaving its ability to provide flow unexploited. When left undeveloped, the senses give us chaotic information. An untrained body moves in random and clumsy ways. An insensitive eye presents ugly and uninteresting sights. The unmusical ear mainly hears jarring noises. The coarse palate knows only insipid tastes. If the functions of the body are left to atrophy, the quality of life becomes merely adequate, and for some even dismal. But if one takes control of what the body can do and learns to impose order on physical sensations, entropy yields to a sense of enjoyable harmony in consciousness. The human body is capable of hundreds of separate functions: seeing, hearing, touching, running, swimming, throwing, catching, climbing up mountains and climbing down caves, to name only a few, and to each of these there correspond flow experiences. In every culture, enjoyable activities have been invented to suit the potentialities of the body. When a normal physical function, like running, is performed in a socially designed, goal-directed setting with rules that offer challenges and require skills, it turns into a flow activity. Whether jogging alone, racing the clock, running against competition, or like the Tarahumara Indians of Mexico, who race hundreds of miles in the mountains during certain festivals, adding an elaborate ritual dimension to the activity, the simple act of moving the body across the space becomes a source of complex feedback that provides optimal experience and adds strength to the self. Each sensory organ, each motor function can be harnessed to the production of flow. Before exploring further how physical activity contributes to optimal experience, it should be stressed that the body does not produce flow merely by its movements. The mind is always involved as well. To get enjoyment from swimming, for instance, one needs to cultivate a set of appropriate skills, which requires the concentration of attention. Without the relevant thoughts, motives, feelings, it would be impossible to achieve the discipline necessary to learn to swim well enough to enjoy it. Moreover, because enjoyment takes place in the mind of the swimmer, flow cannot be a purely physical process. Muscles and brain must be equally involved. In the pages that follow, we shall review some of the ways that the quality of experience can be improved through the refined use of bodily processes. These include physical activities like sports and dance, the cultivation of sexuality, and the various Eastern disciplines for controlling the mind through the training of the body. They also feature the discriminating use of the senses of sight, hearing, and taste. Each of these modalities offers an almost unlimited amount of enjoyment, but only a person who works to develop these skills they require. To those who do not, the body remains indeed a lump of rather inexpensive flesh. Higher, faster, stronger. The Latin motto of the modern Olympic Games, Altius Sitius Fortius, is a good, if incomplete, summary of how the body can experience flow. It encompasses the rationale of all sports, which is to do something better than it has ever been done before. The purest form of athletics and sports in general is to break through the limitations of what the body can accomplish. However unimportant an athletic goal may appear to outsider, it becomes a serious affair when performed with the intent of demonstrating a perfection of skill. Throwing things, for instance, is a rather trivial ability. Even small babies are quite good at it, as the toys surrounding any infant's crib testify. But how far a person can throw an object of a certain weight becomes a matter of legend. The Greeks invented the discus, and the great discus throwers of antiquity were immortalized by the best sculptors. The Swiss gathered on holidays in mountain meadows to see who could toss the trunk of a tree the farthest. The Scots did the same with gigantic rocks. In baseball nowadays, pitchers become rich and famous because they can throw balls with speed and precision, and basketball players because they can sink them into hoops. Some athletes throw javelins, others are bowlers, shot putters, or hammer throwers. Some throw boomerangs or cast fishing lines. Each of these variations on the basic capacity to throw offers almost unlimited opportunities for enjoyment. Altius, higher, is the first word of the Olympic motto, and soaring above the ground is another universally recognized challenge. To break the bonds of gravity is one of the oldest dreams of mankind. The myth of Icarus, who had wings fashioned so that he could reach the sun, has been long held to a parable of the aims, noble and misguided at the same time. To jump higher, to climb the loftiest peaks, to fly far above the earth are among the most enjoyable activities people can do. Yet some savants have recently invented a special physic infirmity, and so-called Icarus complex, to account for this desire to be released from the pull of gravity. Like all explanations that try to reduce enjoyment to a defensive ploy against repressed anxieties, this one misses the point. Of course, in some senses, all purposeful action can be regarded as a defense against the threats of chaos. But in that respect, it is more worthwhile to consider acts that bring enjoyment as signs of health, not of disease. Flow experiences based on the use of physical skills do not occur only in the context of outstanding athletic feats. Olympians do not have an exclusive gift in finding enjoyment in pushing performance beyond existing boundaries. Every person, no matter how unfit he or she is, can rise a little higher, go a little faster, and grow to be a little stronger. The joy of surpassing the limits of the body is open to all. Even the simplest physical act becomes enjoyable when it is transformed so as to produce flow. The essential steps in this process are A. To set an overall goal and as many sub-goals as are realistically feasible. B. To find ways of measuring progress in terms of the goals chosen. C. To keep concentrating on what one is doing and to keep making finer and finer distinctions in the challenges involved in the activity. D. To develop skills necessary to interact with the opportunities available. And E. To keep raising the stakes if the activity becomes boring. A good example of this method is the act of walking, which is as simple a use of the body as one can imagine, yet which can become a complex flow activity, almost an art form. A great number of different goals might be set for a walk. For instance, the choice of the itinerary, where one wishes to go and by what route. Within the overall route, one might select places to stop or certain landmarks to see. Another goal may be to develop a personal style, a way to move the body easily and efficiently. An economic motion that maximizes physical well-being is another obvious goal. For measuring progress, the feedback may include how fast and how easily the intended distance was discovered, how many interesting sights one has seen, and how many new ideas or feelings were entertained along the way. The challenges of the activity are what force us to concentrate. The challenges of a walk will vary greatly depending on the environment. For those who live in a large city, flat sidewalks and right angle layouts make the physical act of walking easy. Walking on a mountain trail is another thing altogether. For a skilled hiker, each step presents a different challenge to be resolved, with a choice of the most efficient foothold that will give the best leverage, simultaneously taking into account the momentum and the center of gravity of the body and the various surfaces, dirt, rocks, roots, grass, branches, on which the foot can land. On a difficult trail, an experienced hiker walks with economy of motion and lightness, and the constant adjustment of her steps to the terrain reveals the highly sophisticated equation involving mass, velocity, and friction. Of course, these calculations are usually automatic and give the impression of being entirely intuitive, almost instinctive. But if the walker does not process the right information about the terrain and fails to make the appropriate adjustment in her gait, she will stumble or will soon grow tired. So while this kind of walking might be entirely unself-conscious, it is in fact a highly intense activity that requires concentrated attention. In the city, the terrain itself is not challenging, but there are other opportunities for developing skills. The social stimulation of the crowds, the historical and architectural references for the urban milieu can add enormous variety to a walk. There are store windows to see people, to observe patterns of human interaction to reflect on. Some walkers specialize in choosing the shortest routes. others the most interesting ones.